chosen one. What if I told you that in less than 72 hours, God will either unlock the vault of blessings He's been preparing for you, or seal it shut forever? What if the 8th of September and 9th aren't just random dates on your calendar, but divine appointment times that will determine whether you step into your destiny or watch it slip through your fingers like sand? What if, and listen to me carefully, what if the very reason your prayers have felt like they're bouncing off heaven's ceiling is because God has been waiting for these exact 2 days to release what He's been holding back? Chosen one, I need you to stop right where you are. Put down whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every excuse you've made about why breakthrough hasn't come, why doors haven't opened, why you're still stuck in the same patterns that have tormented you for years. There's a vault in heaven, invisible to human eyes, but more real than the ground beneath your feet. Inside this vault sits every blessing, every breakthrough, every miracle that has your name written on it. For months, maybe years, you've felt it. That aching sense that something magnificent is just out of reach. That restless knowing that your time is coming, but wondering when will finally arrive. The 8th of September and 9th are your when. But here's the shocking truth that will cut through every religious platitude you've ever heard. God won't force these blessings into your hands. He's holding them, waiting, watching to see if you'll recognize the sound of opportunity knocking, or if you'll sleep through the most important weekend of your life. Before I go deeper into this divine mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. If you're listening and something inside you already stirs, if your spirit recognizes the weight of this moment, type, "I'm ready" in the comments. Because tonight, God is calling the chosen awake. Stay with me until the end, because what I reveal about these 2 days will explain why your life has felt so heavy, why certain doors have remained locked, and why the next 48 hours could rewrite your entire story. Miss this, and you'll spend the rest of September wondering why everyone else seems to be moving forward while you're still standing still. The vault is opening, chosen one. The question is, will you be awake enough to receive what's inside? Why do you think God allows disappointment to visit you just before breakthrough? Why does it seem like every time you're on the verge of something beautiful, life throws a curveball that tests your resolve? Why does the enemy always attack hardest when you're closest to your promised land? Because the 8th of September isn't just another Sunday on your calendar, beloved. It's the doorway of renewal, the number of resurrection, the start of something fresh that will redefine everything you thought you knew about God's timing in your life. But here's what every chosen one must understand. Renewal never arrives without a test. Think about it. When Jesus rose from the dead, it wasn't on the 7th day. It was on the 8th day, the first day of a new week, a new creation, a new beginning. 8 represents infinity turned on its side. It's the number that breaks cycles, shatters limitations, and opens what seemed permanently closed. But resurrection only comes after crucifixion. New life only emerges after old things die. You've been circling the same mountain for months, maybe years. The same financial struggles, the same relationship patterns, the same health concerns that keep you awake at 3 a.m., the same spiritual dryness that makes you wonder if God has forgotten your address. But the 8th of September is your resurrection morning if you can pass the test. Scripture tells us in 1 Peter 1-7 that your faith of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. God doesn't test you to break you, chosen one. He tests you to authenticate you, to prove to heaven, earth, and hell itself that your faith is genuine, that your calling is real, that your breakthrough has been earned through the furnace of adversity. But here's where most believers stumble. They expect the test to look like a test. They're waiting for some obvious trial, some dramatic moment where they can heroically stand and declare their faith. But God's tests rarely announce themselves with trumpets and fanfare. They whisper through ordinary moments, slip into routine conversations, hide behind familiar faces. On the 8th of September, every chosen one will face 3 specific distractions, not accidents, not coincidences, orchestrated encounters designed to measure the temperature of your spiritual awakening. Miss these signs, and you miss the lock turning. See them for what they are, and you prove to heaven that you're finally awake. The first distraction will come through a familiar voice, tempting comfort. It might be your own inner dialogue saying, "Just this once, take the easy path." It could be a well-meaning friend suggesting you postpone that leap of faith you've been contemplating. Or perhaps it's that old habit calling your name, promising temporary relief from the tension you've been feeling. This voice knows exactly how to sound reasonable, caring, protective. But comfort, dear one, is the enemy of calling. Every time you choose ease over obedience, you trade your destiny for temporary peace. Remember when Peter tried to comfort Jesus by saying, "Never, Lord, this shall never happen to you." When Jesus spoke of his crucifixion, Jesus' response was swift and sharp. "Get behind me, Satan, you are a stumbling block to me." Even well-intentioned comfort can become a satanic distraction when it pulls you away from God's plan. On the 8th of September, you'll know this voice when it appears. It will feel safe, logical, gentle. Resist it. The second distraction will manifest as a small irritation designed to trigger anger. Pay attention to this one, because it's subtle and deadly. Someone will say something that rubs you wrong. Traffic will move slower than usual. Technology will glitch at the worst possible moment. Your patience will be tested by circumstances that seem insignificant but feel amplified. This isn't Murphy's Law, this is spiritual warfare. Proverbs 16:32 declares, "Better a patient person than a warrior, a person who controls their temper than one who takes a city." The enemy knows that anger is a fast-acting poison that clouds spiritual discernment. When you react in anger on a day of testing, you forfeit your clarity. You miss the whisper of the Holy Spirit because you're shouting at circumstances. Every irritation that surfaces on the 8th of September is an invitation to choose peace over protest, grace over grudges. The third distraction will arrive as a subtle delay designed to test your patience. The appointment that runs late, the phone call that doesn't come when expected, the answer that takes longer than you think it should. Most people interpret delays as denials. They assume God has changed his mind, that their prayers have been rejected, that their season has passed. But chosen ones understand that divine delays are often divine protection. Think about Abraham waiting 25 years for Isaac, Moses spending 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel, David hiding in caves for years after being anointed king. God's delays aren't demonstrations of his forgetfulness, they're evidence of his precision. He's not slow, he's strategic. Every delay on the 8th of September is testing whether you'll trust his timing or force your own. But here's the mystery that will change everything. These 3 distractions aren't punishments, they're confirmations. If familiar voices are tempting you toward comfort, it's because your calling is real enough to require courage. If small irritations are triggering anger, it's because your peace is valuable enough to protect. If delays are testing your patience, it's because your breakthrough is significant enough to wait for. The enemy only fights what threatens him. If you're facing these 3 tests on the 8th of September, it's proof that you're carrying something hell desperately wants to steal, kill, and destroy. But what the devil means for evil, God intends for good. Every test passed becomes a testimony. Every temptation resisted becomes a weapon. Every moment of patient endurance becomes a building block for unshakable faith. If this resonates deep in your spirit, if something inside you recognizes the weight of this moment, Whisper, "I won't miss it," to yourself right now. Don't just think it, declare it. Let your faith have a voice. Let heaven hear your commitment. Let the enemy know that you're not going to sleep through your season of testing, because the 8th of September is just the beginning. If you can stand firm through the 3 distractions, if you can remain awake while others slumber, if you can choose God's way over the easy way, then the 9th of September will reveal why every test was worth enduring. But what happens on the 9th day will require everything you prove on the 8th. Are you ready to discover why patience is the key that unlocks the impossible? If the 8th of September was the pouring, then the 9th of September is the hardening. And beloved, what hardens cannot be reshaped. Picture this. A master craftsman pours wet cement for the foundation of a mansion. On day 1, it's fluid, moldable, responsive to his touch. But there comes a moment, one precise moment, when that cement begins to set. Miss that window, and the foundation is locked in place forever. Crooked becomes permanent. Weak becomes structural failure. Perfect becomes unshakable strength. The 9th of September is your cement day, chosen one. And the question that will haunt you or heal you is this: what condition is your foundation in when it hardens? You see, the number 9 carries a weight that most people never understand. In Scripture, 9 represents finality. It's the number of harvest, of completion, of divine judgment rendered. When Jesus cried out on the cross at the 9th hour, it wasn't just a time marker, it was the sealing of salvation for all mankind. 9 doesn't negotiate. 9 doesn't give second chances. 9 locks in what island. And right now, as the 9th of September approaches like a freight train in the night, God is watching your heart. He's measuring your faith. He's weighing your response to the pressure you felt yesterday. Because whatever emotion dominates your spirit when the clock strikes midnight on the 9th of September, that emotion becomes your echo for the next 90 days. Let me speak directly to the ache in your chest right now. You're 73 years old, and you lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering if God remembers your name. Your social security barely covers your medications. Your children call once a month if you're lucky. You sit in that empty house, the same house where you raised a family, where you hosted Christmas mornings, where you once believed your golden years would be filled with grandchildren's laughter and Sunday dinners around a full table. Instead, there's silence, loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, bills that arrive faster than blessings, prayers that feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling of heaven itself. You've been faithful for decades. You've tithed when you couldn't afford it. You've prayed when prayer felt empty. You've believed when believing hurt. And still you're sitting here wondering if breakthrough is just a word preachers use to keep people coming back to church. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every delayed blessing, every moment when you felt forgotten by heaven, what if all of that was God holding back until the 9th of September? What if He's been protecting your breakthrough from arriving at the wrong time, in the wrong season, when you weren't ready to handle its weight? Here's the shocking truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. God doesn't work on your timeline. He works on His own. And His timeline says that the 9th of September is your sealing day. Look at Lazarus, dead for 4 days while Jesus seemingly ignored the desperate pleas of Mary and Martha. 4 days of decay, of hopelessness, of wondering why the one who could heal didn't show up in time. But when Jesus finally arrived, He didn't just heal the sick, He raised the dead. The delay wasn't denial. It was set up for a miracle so powerful that even His enemies couldn't deny it. Your delay isn't denial, chosen one. It's set up. But here's where most people fail the test. They walk into their sealing day bitter, resentful, hardened by years of disappointment. They carry that poison into the 9th of September. And when the cement hardens, bitterness becomes their foundation for months to come. Opportunities slip away, relationships sour, health declines. Money flows away faster than water through broken fingers. They sealed their own defeat. But if you walk into the 9th of September with faith, trembling faith, imperfect faith, but faith nonetheless, that faith multiplies into shields of favor that protect you from every arrow the enemy tries to launch. Suddenly, doors open that have been locked for years. Suddenly, people who ignored you start seeing your value. Suddenly, finances flow from directions you never expected. You sealed your own victory. The Bible declares in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season of waiting is ending. Your time of weeping is finishing. Your purpose is about to be unveiled. But only if you choose faith over bitterness when the cement hardens. Moses stood at the Red Sea with 2 million people behind him and Pharaoh's army charging forward. In that moment, he had a choice: panic or praise, fear or faith, complaining or commanding. What he chose in that moment didn't just affect him, it determined the destiny of an entire nation. What you choose on the 9th of September will determine your destiny for the rest of this year. Right now, I can feel some of you pulling back. I can sense the voice in your head saying, "This sounds too good to be true. I've been disappointed before. What if I hope again and nothing happens?" That voice isn't wisdom, beloved. That's the enemy's last desperate attempt to keep you from your breakthrough. God has been waiting for this moment, not to punish you, but to crown you, not to test your limits, but to reveal your strength, not to delay your blessing, but to deliver it when you're finally ready to receive it without letting it destroy you. The vault of heaven is creaking open, the cement is being poured, and in less than 24 hours, whatever you carry into the 9th of September becomes your foundation. Say it aloud right now, don't just think it. Speak it into existence. I will not miss my ceiling. I will not sleep through my destiny. I will choose faith when the cement hardens. Because, chosen one, your foundation is about to be set in stone. And what gets sealed on the 9th of September will either be your breakthrough or your breakdown. The choice and the power is in your hands. Dear chosen one, let me tell you about the anatomy of divine timing. Because what you're experiencing right now, this restless ache in your chest, this sense that something monumental is approaching, isn't new. It's ancient, it's biblical, and it's about to collide with your reality in ways that will leave you breathless. Picture Joseph, 28 years old, rotting in Pharaoh's dungeon. 28 years old. For 2 solid years after interpreting the cupbearer's dream, he waited. Every sunrise brought the same stone walls. Every sunset whispered the same question: God, have you forgotten me? But Genesis 41:1 tells us something that will shatter your understanding of delay. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. 2 full years, not 1 year and 11 months, not 23 months, 2 full years. Because God's timing isn't just precise, it's surgical. On the exact day heaven had appointed, the prison doors swung open and Joseph walked into a palace. One day he was forgotten. The next day he was ruling Egypt. What if the 8th of September and 9th are your palace days? You see, beloved, every chosen one carries an invisible appointment book written in heaven's ink. Moses had his burning bush moment at exactly 80 years old. David was anointed as a teenager, but didn't touch the throne until he was 30. Esther had one day to approach the king or watch her entire people perish. And in Esther 4:14, Mordecai spoke words that echo through eternity. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? For such a time as this, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but this appointed moment when earth and heaven align. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have been crying alone at night, haven't you? Whispering into your pillow, God, why hasn't my breakthrough come? I've been faithful. I've been patient. I've prayed until my knees are raw and my voice is hoarse. You've watched others walk into their promises while you're still standing in your wilderness, wondering if you somehow missed your turn. What if those tears were the very ink heaven was writing with? What if every drop that fell from your eyes was God collecting liquid faith, storing it up for the moment when he would pour it back as liquid blessing. Psalm 56:8 declares, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." Your tears aren't evidence of abandonment, they're evidence of appointment. Think about this. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. While the world moved on, while opportunities passed, while others rose to power, Mandela sat in a cell on Robben Island. But on the 11th of February, 1990, he walked out of that prison and into the presidency of South Africa. One day changed everything. 27 years of preparation condensed into one moment of manifestation. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job in Baltimore. They told her she was too emotionally invested in her stories. Too invested. The very quality that would make her the most influential woman in media was called her weakness. But on the 8th of September, 1986, yes, the 8th of September, the Oprah Winfrey Show went national. One day, she was a fired local anchor. The next, she was changing the world. Every chosen one has a date. The 8th of September and the 9th of May be yours. But here's where it gets supernatural. Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, but when God said it was time to cross the Jordan, it wasn't gradual. Joshua 3:15 tells us the priests stepped into the water at the very moment their feet touched the water's edge. The water from upstream stopped flowing. Not slowly, not eventually, at the very moment. Divine timing doesn't trickle, it floods. Right now, write down the 8th of September and 9. Don't just watch this message, seal it in writing. Because something prophetic happens when you put pen to paper. You're not just taking notes, you're making covenant. You're telling heaven, I'm not just a spectator, I'm a participant. You want to know why you felt so heavy lately? Why every step forward feels like you're walking through thick mud? Why breakthrough seems to hover just beyond your reach? Because you're in the compression chamber. You're in what I call the Joseph years, the space between promise and performance, between prophecy and manifestation. But compression has a purpose. Diamonds aren't formed in comfort, they're forged under pressure. And right now, heaven is applying just enough pressure to transform the coal of your character into the diamond of your destiny. The enemy knows what the 8th of September and 9th represent. That's why the attacks have intensified. That's why doubt has been louder. That's why it feels like everything is falling apart just when you thought things were finally coming together. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the fiercer the resistance becomes. But here's what the devil didn't count on. Your breaking point was actually your building point. Every tear, every setback, every moment you wanted to quit, but didn't, it was all preparation for what's about to be released. So I ask you this. Will you recognize your Jordan River moment when it comes? Will you have the courage to step into waters that haven't parted yet, trusting that they will the moment your foot touches the surface? Because in less than 48 hours, the appointed time arrives, and everything you've endured is about to make sense. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every misconception you've carried about divine timing. The 8th of September and 9th aren't just dates circled on your calendar, they are celestial gates. And like every gate in Scripture, they either open to glory or close to judgment. You see, God doesn't operate on human schedules. He operates on divine appointments. And these 2 days, they're your appointment with destiny itself. For months, maybe years, you've been asking God the same desperate questions. When will my breakthrough come? When will my prayers be answered? When will this season of struggle finally end? You've cried out in the darkness, wondering if heaven has forgotten your address. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every delayed blessing, every closed door has been building toward these exact 48 hours? This is why your spirit has felt so heavy lately. This is why you wake up at 3 a.m. with an unexplainable restlessness in your chest. This is why simple decisions feel weighted with eternal significance. Your soul recognizes what your mind hasn't grasped yet. You're standing at the threshold of the most critical weekend of your spiritual life. Let me paint you a picture that will burn into your memory forever. Imagine a bridge stretched across a chasm so deep you can't see the bottom. This bridge has only 2 planks, the 8th of September and the 9th of September. There's no going around it. There's no alternative route. There's no safety net below. You either walk across these 2 planks with absolute faith and intentional awareness, or you watch everything God prepared for you on the other side crumble into the abyss. You can't skip a day. You can't cheat the process. You can't treat the 8th of September like just another Saturday and the 9th of September like just another Sunday. Miss one plank and the entire bridge collapses. This isn't a game, beloved. This is the culmination of every prayer you've ever prayed, every tear you've ever shed, every moment you've held on to faith when circumstances screamed at you to let go. Remember the 10 virgins in Matthew 25? 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. When the bridegroom came at midnight, only 5 had oil in their lamps. The foolish ones ran to buy oil, but by the time they returned, the door was shut. Jesus said to them, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you." The difference between eternal celebration and eternal regret was preparation for one moment, the moment of his arrival. The 8th of September and 9th are your midnight hour. The question is, do you have oil in your lamp, or are you about to discover it's empty when you need it most? Here's what will cut you to the bone. If you sleep through these days, if you treat them as ordinary weekend hours while God is orchestrating supernatural alignment, what was meant for you doesn't disappear into thin air. It transfers. It passes to someone else who was awake enough to recognize the sound of heaven moving. Someone else will inherit the blessing that had your name on it. Someone else will walk through the door that was meant for your feet. This is why King Saul lost his kingdom. 1 Samuel 13 tells us he grew impatient waiting for Samuel and offered the sacrifice himself. He couldn't wait. He couldn't honor divine timing. And in that moment of impatience, God tore the kingdom from his hands and gave it to David, a man who understood that God's timing is perfect timing. Beloved, I need you to feel the weight of this moment settling on your shoulders. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, there are only hours left. Not weeks, not months. Hours. The vault of heaven is creaking open, and the Father's hand is reaching for the key that unlocks every blessing with your name on it. But his hand will only turn that key if you prove you're awake enough to receive what's inside. This is why the enemy has been attacking your faith so viciously this week. This is why doubt has been whispering louder than usual. This is why you've felt more tired, more discouraged, more tempted to give up than you have in months. The devil knows exactly what weekend this island. He's throwing everything he has at you to make sure you're too distracted, too defeated, too spiritually exhausted to recognize the sound of your deliverance approaching. But I'm here to tell you that every attack you've endured was proof that your breakthrough is real. You don't get this level of spiritual warfare unless you're carrying something that makes hell nervous. You've been under siege because Satan sees what's coming on the 8th of September and 9th, and he's desperate to steal it before you wake up enough to claim it. The heaviness you've been carrying isn't depression, it's anticipation. Your spirit has been groaning because it recognizes that birth is coming. Romans 8:22 says, "We know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. What you thought was suffering was actually labor. What you thought was delay was actually preparation. What you thought was denial was actually divine timing, orchestrating the perfect moment for your miracle to be born." If you're still here, if something deep in your bones is confirming that this message found you for a reason, then I need you to do something that will change the trajectory of your entire future. Type "I receive it" in the comments right now. Don't think about it. Don't hesitate. Don't let pride or fear or doubt rob you of this moment. Speak it into the atmosphere. Declare it over your circumstances. Announce to heaven and hell that you are awake, you are ready, and you refuse to let silence steal your blessing. The bridge is before you, chosen one. The planks are steady beneath your feet. But in mere hours, this window closes forever. What will you choose? Let me tell you something that will chill you to the bone. Every moment you've ignored God's voice, it didn't just disappear into thin air. It multiplied, it echoed, and right now, those echoes are stacking up against you like thunderclouds before a storm. Picture this. You drop a stone into perfectly still water. What happens? The ripples spread outward, ring after ring, until the entire surface is moving. That stone, that single moment of choice, never stops affecting the water, never stops creating waves, never stops changing everything it touches. That's exactly what happens when you miss God's appointed times. Ignore it, and it grows louder. Ignore it, and it repeats. Ignore it, and it haunts the next season. Dear chosen one, how many times have you felt that nagging in your spirit, that gentle pull, that whispered instruction you brushed off because it seemed too small, too inconvenient, too ordinary? You told yourself it wasn't important. You convinced yourself you'd catch the next opportunity. But what you didn't realize is that in heaven's records, that small moment was everything. The Israelites learned this the hard way. Numbers 14 records one of the most heartbreaking stories in all of Scripture. They stood at the edge of the promised land, the very place God had been leading them toward for over a year. The land flowing with milk and honey was right there. They could see it. They could smell the abundance. They could touch the soil that was meant to be their inheritance. But when the 12 spies returned with their report, 10 of them brought back fear instead of faith. The giants are too big, they said. The cities are too fortified. We can't possibly take this land. And the people? They listened to the voice of limitation instead of the voice of their liberator. We should go back to Egypt, they cried. We should choose a new leader. We should turn around. God's response was swift and devastating. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this wilderness your bodies will fall, every one of you 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home. 40 years. An entire generation wandered in circles because they missed one divine appointment. One moment of required faith, one test they failed to pass. But here's what haunts me about this story, and here's what should terrify you. Those Israelites thought they were just being cautious. They thought they were being realistic. They thought they had time to reconsider, time to prepare more, time to get comfortable with God's plan. They had no idea they were sealing their fate with a single choice. How many times, and be honest with yourself right now, how many times did you think you just missed something small, but in heaven's records, it was everything? That job interview you cancelled because you were afraid. That relationship you walked away from because commitment felt too risky. That ministry opportunity you declined because you didn't feel qualified enough. That financial decision you postponed because the timing didn't seem perfect. You thought those were just minor postponements. But what if they were divine appointments you missed? What if each no you gave to God's gentle promptings created an echo that's still reverberating through your life today? The brutal truth is this: every ignored whisper from God creates a spiritual echo that blocks the next blessing. Every dismissed opportunity builds a wall between you and your destiny. Every time you choose comfort over calling, safety over surrender, you're not just affecting that moment, you're affecting every moment that comes after. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. Are you living in the fullness God promised you? Or are you wandering in circles, hoping that somehow, someday, you'll stumble into your purpose? Are you dwelling in the land of blessing, or are you still camping in the wilderness of what if? The echoes of missed moments don't just fade away with time. They compound, they multiply, they create patterns that trap you in cycles you never meant to enter. But here's where hope enters the story. And here's why these next 48 hours matter more than any other weekend of your life. God is a God of second chances. He's a God of restoration. He's a God who can silence the echoes of yesterday with the decisions you make today. The children who were too young to enter the promised land the first time, 20 years later, they crossed the Jordan River under Joshua's leadership. They inherited what their parents forfeited. They claimed what fear had stolen from the previous generation. Chosen one, the 8th of September and 9th are your Jordan River moment. These aren't just random dates on a calendar. They're God's appointed times for breaking the cycles, silencing the echoes, and claiming what previous decisions may have cost you. Stay with me, because in a moment I'll show you how these echoes can still be redeemed if you act now. I'll reveal the exact spiritual keys that can transform 40 years of wandering into one weekend of breakthrough. But first, you need to understand something that will change how you see every choice you make from this moment forward. The echo of missed moments ends here. If you're brave enough to listen when God whispers your name on the 8th of September and 9th, listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about God's timing in your life. The numbers 8 and 9 aren't just calendar dates, they are divine frequencies, cosmic codes that heaven uses to unlock destinies and seal eternal purposes. You see, God doesn't speak in accidents. He doesn't scatter random numbers across your path like dice thrown by chance. Every number carries weight, carries purpose, carries the fingerprint of eternity itself. And the 8th of September and 9th, these aren't just the weekend before your Monday routine. These are the two most prophetically charged days you'll encounter this year. Let me break this down for you in a way that will make your spirit tremble with recognition. The number 8, this is the number of new creation, of resurrection power, of God saying what was dead is now alive. Think about this. Jesus rose from the dead on the 8th day when you count inclusively from his entry into Jerusalem. The 8th day was when covenant sons were circumcised, marked as belonging to God. The 8th person on Noah's Ark was the start of a new world. 8 isn't just addition, it's resurrection. But here's what will shock you. You think your life has been ordinary, that your struggles have been meaningless, that your age has pushed you to the sidelines of God's plan. But what if your whole existence has been preparation for this 8th day moment? What if every heartbreak trained you for breakthrough? What if every closed door was God preserving you for the door that opens on the 8th of September? The number 9 carries even more weight. 9 is the hour Jesus gave up his spirit. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. 9 months in the womb before birth. 9 fruits of the Spirit. 9 is finality, completion, the sealing of what 8 began. If 8 strikes the match, 9 is the flame sealed in unbreakable glass. Think of it like this. 8 begins, 9 seals. 8 stirs, 9 seals. 8 tests, 9 seals. You've been waiting for God to move in your life, haven't you? Waiting for the phone call that changes everything. Waiting for the door that finally opens. Waiting for the relationship that heals. Waiting for the financial breakthrough that's been promised but never delivered. But what if God has been waiting too? Waiting for these exact days when heaven's arithmetic aligns with your earthly need. Here's the brutal truth that religious people won't tell you. Missing the 8th of September isn't just missing an opportunity, it's missing the opportunity. Because once the match is struck and you're not there to tend the flame, once the sealing happens and you're absent from the room, the moment passes into someone else's hands. I need you to understand something that might sting. God prepared this blessing with your name on it, but he won't force it into your life. Deuteronomy 30:19 says, I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life. The choice is yours. The blessing is prepared. But the activation requires your participation. Let me ask you something that might cut deep. How many divine appointments have you missed because they didn't look divine enough? How many burning bushes have you walked past because they looked like ordinary shrubs? How many Red Sea moments have you forfeited because you were waiting for a more convenient time to step forward? The numbers 8 and 9 are calling your name right now. Not next month, not when you feel more ready, not when your circumstances look better. Right now. And here's what breaks my heart. I know exactly who's listening to this message. You're the grandmother who's prayed for her family's healing for 30 years. You're the grandfather who's watched his children struggle and wondered if your prayers even reach heaven's ears. You're the widow who's felt invisible since your husband passed. You're the retiree who's been told your useful years are behind you. But listen to this truth that will resurrect hope in your weary bones. You are living proof that God still seals destinies, even in what the world calls later years. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your authentication. You've been seasoned by suffering, refined by loss, purified by years of faithful waiting. You're not too old for God's 8 and 9 sequence. You're the perfect candidate for it. The enemy has been whispering lies. You missed your chance. You're too late. God's moved on to younger vessels. But those are the desperate words of a defeated foe who knows that when seasoned saints finally step into their 8 and 9 moment, hell itself trembles. The 8th of September is your resurrection day. The day dead dreams come alive. The day closed doors swing wide. The day God looks at your situation and declares, "Let there be light." But the 9th of September, that's your sealing day. The day heaven stamps approved on your breakthrough and makes it permanent, unshakable, unstealable. Here's the cinematic truth that will take your breath away. Think of 8 as the match being struck in a dark room. Think of 9 as that flame being sealed in unbreakable glass, preserved forever. Miss the match and there's no fire. Miss the sealing and the flame burns out. But if you're present for both, if you recognize the sound of the match striking on the 8th of September and you're still there when the glass descends on the 9th of September, then what God ignites becomes eternal. What He speaks becomes unchangeable. What He promises becomes yours to keep. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you be awake enough to recognize when God strikes your match, or will you sleep through the most important weekend of your spiritual life? But here's what nobody tells you about standing at the threshold of divine breakthrough. You never approach God's blessings alone. There are always shadows waiting at the gate. Picture this, chosen one. It's midnight. You're standing before an ancient bridge that spans the chasm between where you are and where God is calling you. The moonlight reveals your destination, the 9th of September, glowing like a beacon on the other side. But blocking your path stand 3 hooded figures, silent as death, immovable as mountains. These aren't demons with horns and pitchforks. These are far more dangerous because they wear familiar faces. They speak in your own voice. They know your deepest fears, your oldest wounds, your most secret shame. And right now, between the 8th of September and 9th, they're hunting you. The first shadow is doubt. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It's too late for you. It hisses in your ear. Look at your age. Look at your mistakes. Look at how many times you've been disappointed before. God's blessings are for other people, younger people, better people, people who didn't waste decades like you did. Can you hear it? That voice that sounds exactly like your own thoughts. That's not wisdom speaking, dear one. That's warfare. Jesus himself faced this shadow in the wilderness when Satan whispered, "If you are the Son of God." Notice the strategy, not denying Jesus' identity, but making him doubt it, making him question what the Father had already declared. But here's the truth that will shatter doubt's power over your life. God doesn't operate on human timelines. When Abraham was 100 years old, 100, God fulfilled his promise of a son. When Moses was 80, wandering sheep in the desert, God appeared in a burning bush and said, "Now your real work begins." When Anna the prophetess was 84, she had been waiting in the temple for decades, and it was then that she saw the Messiah with her own eyes. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your authority. Every year you've survived, every battle you've endured, every tear you've cried has been preparing you for this exact moment. Doubt wants you to believe it's too late, but God's calendar says you're right on time. The second shadow is fear, and this one is the master of disguise. It doesn't appear as terror, it masquerades as logic. It wears the mask of responsibility, prudence, common sense. Be realistic, it counsels. Don't get your hopes up. You've been hurt before. Remember what happened last time you believed in something. Fear whispers statistics in your ear about your chances. It reminds you of your bank account, your health report, your family's track record. It sounds so reasonable, so mature, so wise. But listen to what the Apostle Paul declared in 2 Timothy 1-7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. Did you catch that? God didn't give you that fear. So where did it come from? Every trembling thought, every worst-case scenario playing in your mind, every voice telling you to play it safe. That's the enemy's counterfeit wisdom, designed to keep you from stepping into what God has already prepared. I need you to understand something that will revolutionize how you see your circumstances. What you think is being careful, God calls being crippled. What you think is being wise, heaven calls being paralyzed. The very logic that seems to protect you is the prison that prevents your breakthrough. The third shadow is the most insidious isolation. This shadow doesn't attack your faith or your courage. It attacks your significance. It whispers, "No one sees you. No one cares. You could disappear tomorrow and the world wouldn't notice. Why would God pay attention to someone as invisible as you?" This shadow feeds on your loneliness, especially if you're sitting in an empty house, if the phone doesn't ring, if your children are too busy to call. It points to your circumstances as evidence that you don't matter. But isolation is a liar. The Bible declares in 1 Peter 2-9 that you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. Not were, are, present tense, right now, today, this moment. You're not forgotten, you're positioned, you're not overlooked, you're undercover, hidden in God until the moment of your revealing. Here's the mystery these three shadows don't want you to discover. What you think is coincidence is confirmation. What you think is delay is design. Every closed door, every missed opportunity, every season of waiting has been God's way of protecting what He's been preparing for the 8th of September and 9th. You don't fight these shadows with fists, you defeat them by seeing through them. When doubt whispers too late, you declare God's timing is perfect. When fear counsels be realistic, you proclaim with God all things are possible. When isolation lies, nobody cares, you remember I am fearfully and wonderfully made. But understand this, these shadows aren't accidents, they're confirmations. The very fact that they're appearing now, clustering around these specific dates, is proof that something massive is about to shift in your life. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. He only deploys his strongest opposition when breakthrough is imminent. If you've felt one of these shadows this week, if doubt has been whispering, if fear has been masquerading as wisdom, if isolation has been magnifying your loneliness, I need you to say it out loud right now. I see you, but you can't stop me. Because here's what happens when chosen ones learn to see through the shadows. Instead of surrendering to them, the very bridge that seemed blocked becomes the pathway to your breakthrough. But only if you understand what the 8th of September is really demanding of you, and why missing it could cost you everything you've been praying for. Let me ask you something that cuts straight to the bone of your soul. How many nights have you sat in that same chair, staring at bills you can't pay, wondering if God even remembers your address? How many mornings have you woken up feeling like you're invisible to everyone who once claimed they loved you? I see you there, chosen one, 73 years old, and your own children call twice a year. 81 years old, and the retirement you saved for your entire life barely covers your medication. 68 years old, and that diagnosis the doctor delivered feels like a death sentence wrapped in medical terminology. You've been carrying weight that would crush younger shoulders. You've been fighting battles in silence because nobody wants to hear about your struggles anymore. They say you're supposed to be wise now, peaceful, content. But wisdom feels hollow when your bank account is empty. Peace seems impossible when your own family treats you like a burden. But hear me clearly, every tear you've cried in secret, every prayer you've whispered into the darkness, every moment you felt forgotten and cast aside. Isaiah 61:3 declares that God will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Your ashes are about to become your crown. Your mourning is about to birth your ministry. Your heaviness is about to be replaced with the weight of glory. But the enemy isn't finished with his assault on your soul, is he? Let's talk about the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. The children you raised who now act like you're an inconvenience. The spouse who walked away after 40 years, leaving you to face your golden years alone. The friends who disappeared when you needed them most, suddenly too busy to return your calls. You know what that feels like, don't you? To love people more than they love you. To invest everything in relationships that crumble the moment you become vulnerable. To realize that the people you trusted most were counting the days until they could be free of you. That betrayal didn't just hurt it, rewrote your understanding of love itself, made you question if you were ever truly lovable at all, made you wonder if the emptiness in your chest is just what life looks like when you outlive your usefulness. But chosen one, let me tell you about Joseph. 17 years old, when his own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him like cattle. Genesis 37 tells us they hated him so much they couldn't even speak peacefully to him. His own blood plotting his destruction over breakfast. But Genesis 45:8 reveals the divine plot twist. It was not you who sent me here, but God. What they meant to break you, God meant to build you. What they meant to destroy you, God meant to develop you. What they meant to end you, God meant to elevate you. Every person who walked away from you created space for God to walk closer to you. Every relationship that failed was preparing you for a dependency on the divine that younger people will never understand. Every betrayal was actually God's protection, keeping you from wasting your anointing on people who were never designed to carry it. What they meant to break you, God meant to build you. You sit there thinking you're too old, too forgotten, too damaged for God to use you now. But what if this isolation has been your incubation? What if these years of feeling invisible have been God's way of preparing you for a visibility that will shock everyone who counted you out? Let me tell you about the diagnosis that feels like a countdown clock. The arthritis that makes every movement a reminder of your mortality. The memory issues that make you feel like you're losing yourself piece by piece. The way your own body has become a stranger, betraying you just when you need it most. You've watched friends die, you've buried dreams along with loved ones. You've felt your own strength ebbing away like water through your fingers, and some days the weight of simply existing feels unbearable. The mirror shows you a stranger wearing your face, and you wonder when exactly you became old. But Psalm 92:14 declares something that will revolutionize how you see these golden years. They shall still bear fruit in old age. They shall be fresh and green, not withered, not forgotten, not finished. Fresh and green at 70, at 80, at 90, and beyond. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your authority. Your experience isn't your burden, it's your weapon. Your scars aren't your shame, they're your credentials. Every year you've survived has been adding weight to your words, depth to your prayers, and power to your presence. Moses was 80 when God said, "Now you're ready to deliver a nation." Noah was past retirement age when God said, "Build an ark." Abraham was 99 when God said, "You'll father multitudes." Your age isn't disqualifying you. It's qualifying you for something the young could never handle. What they meant to break you, God meant to build you. Here's what's happening in the spiritual realm while you've been feeling forgotten. God has been hiding you, not from purpose, but for purpose. Like David in the cave, like Joseph in the prison, like Moses in the wilderness, your season of obscurity has been your season of preparation. The 8th of September and 9th aren't just dates on your calendar. They're divine appointments that will prove every tear you've cried was a seed being planted for a harvest you never saw coming. They're the days when God looks at the enemy and says, "You thought you were destroying them, but I was actually developing them." If you're still with me, your spirit already knows you're marked. Not marked for destruction, but marked for demonstration. Marked to show this generation what it looks like when someone refuses to let their story end in defeat. Marked to prove that God's greatest miracles often come through his most weathered vessels. Comment, "I'm marked for more right now." Don't let silence rob your testimony, because what God is about to do through you will make every pain you've endured worth it, every tear you've cried a prophecy, and every year you've lived preparation for your finest hour. The vault is opening, chosen one. But are you ready to receive what's been locked away, waiting for someone exactly like you? Listen to me, dear chosen one. I'm about to tell you something that will either ignite your soul or terrify you to your core. What happens on the 8th of September and 9th isn't just about you. It's about every single person who carries your blood, your name, your legacy. You think you're getting old. You think your best days are behind you. That's the biggest lie the enemy has ever whispered in your ear. You are not slowing down. You are a general of faith, positioned at the most critical moment in your family's spiritual history. Psalm 92:14 declares with thunderous authority, "They shall still bear fruit in old age. They shall be fresh and flourishing." Fresh and flourishing. Not withering. Not forgotten. Not put out to pasture like some old workhorse. You are about to bear fruit that will feed generations you'll never meet. But here's the weight that should crush every excuse you've ever made. On the 8th of September and 9th, a torch is being passed. Either it lands in your weathered hands, or it slips through your fingers into someone else's grasp. And when that happens, what was destined for your bloodline gets transferred to another family tree. Think about your children right now. I want you to see their faces in your mind. Think about your grandchildren, those precious little ones who carry your DNA, your smile, your stubborn streak. Now imagine them 20 years from now, struggling with the same financial curses that have plagued your family for decades. Imagine them battling the same depression, the same broken relationships, the same sense of spiritual emptiness that you've fought your entire life. That future isn't inevitable unless you sleep through these 2 days. You see, beloved, God doesn't just bless individuals, He blesses bloodlines. When Abraham obeyed God's voice and left everything familiar behind, Genesis 12:3 records God's promise. "In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." One man's obedience became an umbrella of blessing that covered nations for thousands of years. But here's what breaks my heart, and should break yours too. When the chosen one in the family misses their moment, that umbrella doesn't just disappear, it gets reassigned. The blessing that should have flowed down through your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren like a mighty river, suddenly gets diverted to another family's reservoir. How many of you right now are living with the consequences of a previous generation's missed moment? How many of you have wondered why breakthrough feels so elusive? Why every step forward comes with 2 steps back? Why your family seems cursed to repeat the same painful cycles generation after generation? It's because somewhere in your bloodline, someone who was chosen to stand in the gap sat down instead. Someone who was called to be the bridge between heaven and earth for their family chose comfort over calling. Someone who was supposed to pass the torch let it die in their hands. But that cycle ends with you. The 8th of September and 9th are your redemption dates. Think about Moses for a moment. When God called him to lead Israel out of bondage, Moses was 80 years old. 80. The world would have called him a senior citizen, past his prime, ready for the rocking chair. But God called him ready for revolution. Exodus 7:7 tells us Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83, when they spoke to Pharaoh. Why would God wait until Moses was ancient by human standards? Because some assignments require the weight of experience, the authority that only comes from decades of walking with the Almighty, the unshakable faith that survives when everything else crumbles. You are Moses in this generation. Your family needs your 80-year-old faith, your battle-tested trust, your refusal to give up when the Red Sea looks impossible to cross. But listen carefully, this transfer window doesn't stay open forever. In 2 Kings 2, when Elijah was about to be taken up to heaven, he asked Elisha, "What do you want before I go?" Elisha could have asked for anything: wealth, fame, comfort. Instead, he asked for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. But here's the crucial detail. If Elisha hadn't been watching when Elijah was taken up, he wouldn't have received anything. The blessing was available, but it required presence. It required paying attention at the exact moment of transfer. That's where you are right now. The mantle is about to be passed. The question is, will you be awake enough to catch it? I need you to understand something that will change everything about how you see these next 48 hours. When you obey God's voice during this window, you're not just changing your own circumstances. You're rewriting your family's spiritual DNA. You're breaking curses that have tormented your bloodline for generations. You're establishing covenants that will protect children who haven't even been born yet. But if you miss it, if you dismiss these days as just another weekend, if you let doubt convince you that you're too old or too insignificant to matter, then what was meant to flow through you gets redirected. Another family receives the inheritance that had your children's names on it. Right now, I want you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to write down the names of your children and grandchildren. Write them clearly. Look at each name. And then I want you to declare with the authority of someone who has walked with God for decades, "They will not miss what God is giving me." The blessing stops wandering with my generation. The torch passes through these hands into theirs. Because, dear warrior, you didn't survive everything you've survived just to fade quietly into the background. You survived to stand guard at the bridge between your family's painful past and their promised future. But the bridge only holds if you're willing to step onto it when the moment comes. And that moment isn't next month or next year. It's the 8th of September and 9th. The torch is already being lifted. The only question is, will you be there to receive it? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious stones in your heart. Remember this. The 8th of September and 9th are not just dates on your calendar, they are divine appointments with destiny. The vault of heaven is opening, but only for those who are awake enough to receive what's inside. You are not too old, not too late, and certainly not forgotten. You are a general of faith, positioned at the bridge between your family's past pain and their promised future. But more than that, remember you are never walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggles, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know these 2 days carry the weight of eternity, now that you understand your obedience affects not just you but generations to come, how will you walk differently when the 8th of September dawns? Before you answer that question, I want to pray over you. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to close your eyes and let these words wash over your spirit like healing oil. Heavenly Father, I lift up every person who has heard this message tonight. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles. You've counted every tear they've cried in secret. But Father, you also see their destiny, you know their calling, You've already written their victory story. God, I pray that you would silence every voice of doubt that has whispered you're too old. I pray that you would break every chain of generational curse that has held their family captive. I pray that you would open their eyes to see the 8th of September and 9th, not as ordinary days, but as the appointed time when you shift everything in their favor. Father, place your mighty hand upon their shoulders right now. Let them feel your presence. Let them know that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond doubt, and destined for greatness beyond their wildest dreams. Give them the courage to step into their calling, the wisdom to recognize your voice above the noise, and the faith to trust your timing, even when they can't see the full picture. Let the 8th of September and 9th be the days when the torch finally passes into their hands, when the vault of blessing finally opens, when their family's story finally turns from curse to covenant. Lord, let this be the weekend everything changes. Let this be the moment their struggle turns to strength, their waiting turns to walking, their fear turns to faith. May they wake up on the 10th of September, not as survivors, but as victors, not as forgotten, but as chosen, not as too late, but as right on time. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has impacted your heart. What shifted in your spirit tonight? What are you believing God for on the 8th of September and 9th? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Type, I'm ready if you're prepared to step into these appointed days with faith. Type, pray for me if you need this community to surround you with intercession. And if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who needs to remember they're not alone in their struggle. Before we close, I want to thank every single one of you who stayed with me through this entire message. Your time is precious, and you chose to invest it in seeking God's heart for your life. That tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. We're building something beautiful together, a community where faith grows, hope is restored, and destinies are fulfilled. Remember, beloved, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. You are chosen. You are called, and you are about to step into the greatest weekend of your spiritual life. Until we meet again, walk in your authority, rest in His timing, and never forget the torch is being passed, and it's coming your way. God bless you, chosen one. The 8th of September and 9th await.